Alrighty, welcome back to the Lunchbox build. We went ahead and put on the body mounts, mounted our servo. Now, check that out. Everything's done up tight. That servo was just, had it. It was a cheapy servo anyway, so maybe the car we took it out of wasn't glitching at all. Maybe the servo was just not working properly. So next for us is all the electronics, which we're not going to do because we're not running the car. And now we can build up the diff. So let's put that over here. You're going to need your diff housing. So I was just saying to Zach before we turn the camera on, this is very, very likely going to be the only car that we ever build with this whole screwdriver, because man, it is so frustrating trying to keep it in the screws properly. And not just because it's a Phillips screwdriver and we need a JIS. This has to be at least as old as me, if not older. It's got to be 50 years old, this screwdriver. And it is just worn to buggery. And it just won't stay in the screws properly. Sounds like someone just got a flat tyre out the front. Oof. Alright, we might just pull up for a second and go and investigate that. Alright, we're back. Yeah, don't know what it was. Somebody dropped something on the road out the front, out of the back of a ute or something. No. Alright, let's get on with this build. Now we are going to use grease. Now I explained this in the when we built the Hornet. So the grease, oh here you go, here's a little tip. As soon as you pop the end of the grease, it all comes out. That's because the air inside is under pressure, and it's just pushing everything out. And what you can do is just grab the side of the grease tube and just give it a gentle squeeze, and that will basically suck air into the tube, and it stops the oil or grease getting squeezed out by the air pressure. A little tip for you. So we've got to put that somewhere where it's not going to grease everything up. Right there. So what do you want, mate? I've got the parts over here. This is usually your job, so you tell me what we need. How many of them bushes?
2.
Up here. And a gear. And a side gear.
Yeah.
Right, so that's one of them. Can go onto one of them.
Then
you probably want to set your bushes into the case, and we're just going to put a bit of grease in the bush itself, if I can get it in there. Yeah, as I was saying, we did explain this in the Hornet video, but the reason why we are greasing up a car that's never going to be driven, yeah, I'll explain it again. Why not? Already got one of them out, didn't I? Because we as in Zach and myself, are not going to drive these cars, the Shelf Queen cars. But that doesn't mean that one day we might get a bee in our bonnet and want to drive some of these cars, or heaven forbid yours truly passes on, the cars go to Zach, and after years of putting up with me building toy cars and helping me out with YouTube and stuff like that, he goes, no, I'm over it, I'm selling all the cars, make myself a nice little nest egg and move on from it all. At which point, you're not going to remember if you greased up these cars or not. So, either we're going to decide to drive one of these cars eventually one day, and we forget we didn't put grease in, go and drive it, and it just turns out a bloody mess. Or we sell it to some poor soul, or Zach sells it, because I'll never sell these things. Although we do have an agreement between Zach and myself, we do have an agreement. It's more of a request. If I do pass on before we finish this first 100 collection, he's got to carry it on. I don't know how happy he is about that, but I'm actually going to write it in my will, so then you have to do it. Alright, let's get this shaft, let's get a bit of grease in there. Yeah, so if they do get sold on, it goes to some unsuspecting poor soul. They go to run the car, there's no grease in it, it dries up, it fails. And they won't be very happy. So that's why we grease up cars that we're never going to use. Well, we're not planning on using, let's put it that way. So, and the instructions tell you to grease up the parts and then put them in. A lot of people do that, nothing wrong with it. But I just find it's really messy, and it's easier to actually put the part in. You can actually spin it and then apply the grease. So this side axle, you really need to make sure you don't forget your gear first, but your little, where'd it go? Your little spacer that goes on the axle shaft there, and just chuck a bush in there and a bit of grease. Yeah, we do grease them up for those reasons, but we tend to not use a lot of grease. It is weird using bushings though. But this is how I would have done it as a kid, because ball bearing sets back in the 80s, man, they were expensive. Yeah, you had to be one of the rich kids to run them. I've got a splinter on my finger somewhere. There you go. Just talk my way through step 7. Step 8, we can put the differential together. I'm actually going to move this manual up and out the way because I really don't like getting grease on manuals. You can have them ones, mate. And there is the mystery gear. Pretty sure it's out of the original Wild Willie. I did ask that in a previous video, nobody answered me, so does anybody know? I know I can just go onto either Facebook or Google or somewhere and just ask a question, but that's not very social, is it? You right there, mate?
Yeah.
You want me to pick them out for you? You want the 3 bigger ones? Mm-hmm. Ooh. And it was a lot easier to picking up these parts when I was 15 years old, I tell you. Right, you want grease in those gears first, and grease in where the shafts are actually going to lay in. Now, everybody has their own way of doing things. You find the way that works for you. Not always necessarily a wrong way to do something, not always necessarily a bad way to do something, but there are definitely easier and more efficient ways to do things. But whatever way works for you, that's the way you do it. After all, this is a hobby. We are playing with toy cars, and if you're doing it in such a way where you actually don't enjoy doing it, then there's no point doing it, is there? Just give it away, go and take up gardening or something, I don't know. Whatever hobby non-RC people do. Take up darts, play darts, darts are cool, go. Even though we're not very good at it. Now I need that center pin. Blue, 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 blue. There she is there. The BC6, there he is. Very important, you don't forget this one. Now we can just marry these together. Oh. Not before I drop that pin. Put a bit of grease in that hole, that'll keep it in there. I'm probably going to skip through some of this build. Like I said, it's not a build guide as such. This is just a build series on the first Tamiya chassis that I ever built. It's just unfortunate that it's not a Midnight Pumpkin, but hey, you got to work with what you got. So that's our gearbox together. I am actually going to grease up. I should have done this before I put it back. Before I put it together. And Zach can put the screws in, so that he can understand the pain of using a Phillips screwdriver on JIS screws. He's got a lot more patience for it than me at the moment. So what do you want? 5 3x12s. No, 3 3x12s. The rest must go in later. Okay. This is basically what we did back in the 80s, mate. Just a couple of guys building the car, just chatting away, and just basically having fun, which is exactly what it's all about. While you're doing that, I might get his motor prepped up. Take off this rubber tube. Don't throw them away, keep them. They come in handy. You can see your big reusable zip tie there. Now these, they're not tricky, they're just a bit fiddly, that's all. These little hex keepers, I guess you call them, that hold the nuts in. They're a bit fiddly. Actually, I was thinking the other day, I'm pretty sure somewhere in an old cupboard or something, there's a bunch of photo albums. And I'm pretty sure I've got a photo of the workbench in my bedroom from back when I was a teenager. And that's the workbench that I built my first RC car on. And all of the static models that I used to build and the other RC cars we ended up building. Everything got done on that bench. It was such a cool bench. As far as benches, how cool benches can be, but yeah, it was a cool bench. I still do, but I loved listening to my music back then. So I ended up, when my sister moved out, she left behind her little stereo thing, and it had detachable speakers, a twin tape deck. It was the coolest thing ever. So what I did was I took the face off the speakers, cut holes in the top corners, top left and right corners of the bench, and then set the speakers so they were basically flush mount into the bench. And we had an old record player, and I used to play all my tapes and the records. It was set up under the bench. I had music going all the time. I used to set up there with my can of Coke and my model and just build for hours and hours and hours. Where are we? Over here. Don't even know what I'm doing. These are, I always find these fiddly, mate, so you can have a go at these. You got to slide, make sure. Okay, so here's another tip, boys. These nuts are sort of the way they're pressed. They're pressed out and then tapped. The way they're pressed, it's got a rounder side and a flat side. Make sure you put the flat side in first, so that's the side that the screw comes from. Because sometimes the round side means it lifts the nut away from the screw a little bit, and sometimes it's just hard to actually engage the thread in the screw. So, well, that's what I found anyway. So if you just screw the nut onto the screw a little bit, you can sit it in there, unscrew it, and hopefully it stays there. Then you've got to press one of these in. When you're cutting these off the tree, usually you would try and cut the parts off as flush as possible. With these, leave a little bit of just a tiny bit of plastic sticking out, and that helps them press into that hole so that they don't fall out. Because I've had them fall out before, and it's just very frustrating. There's just a tiny bit of resistance there as you're pushing them in, so it holds them in there, nothing can fall out. Position pinion gear using paper header from screw bag. It'd be interesting to see if it said that in the original manual, because think they're talking about the screw bags years ago. It used to be just a bag and then it had the cardboard stapled over the top, and I think that's what they're talking about. Because where's one of the screw bags? Because these screw bags that come in the kit, they're just very thin paper, so they don't actually give you a distance for this pinion. It's telling you to use a bit of paper. We'll try this. But yeah, that'll be interesting to know if they're talking about the old bags that had the cardboard stapled on top. So yeah, maybe you can do this. Those together, is it?
Yeah.
There's your pinion and your grub screw. Allen key, you're not using the flash one. I'll just cut this out for you, mate.
Did this come with thread lock?
No. So, chuck that on your motor spindle. Yeah, they got to be talking about that cardboard. So set it where you think it might be right, and then we'll just mock it up in the gearbox with this adapter and check the pinion mesh, and then go back and forth until we get it right. So we're just going to attach that motor adapter just with one screw loosely. Put the motor up, check our pinion depth. And, if it's right, we'll go ahead and put the rest of the screws in. Right, we're going to cheat again. That Phillips doesn't quite fit into the plastic spacing. Even the small ones struggling a bit. Yeah. Okay, so we're just that's pretty close. That's just about bang on. Did you do the grub screw up tight?
Yeah.
Because once that's on, you can't get to it. All right, you can chuck the other screw in and do them up tight. We're going to mount this motor, and that's going to be it for this video, guys. So we'll bring it back when we've done a little bit more progress, and we've thought of a few more things to say. Okay. Actually, before we go, I'm going to give this gearbox a test. Yeah, well done. So we're just going to give it a quick run, make sure everything's working. Again, even though we're not driving a bloody car. And batteries might be flat. You grab those axles, give it a bit of a jump start for me. Alright, pull it. There appears to be something incorrect. The gearbox is not spinning. I can't even spin that gearbox. Ah, there we go. You can hear that. Right. We just had some black batteries. Alright, so that's it for this episode, I guess. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Have a great day. Next time you see us, this will probably be in the car. Alright. See ya.